Hey guys, so welcome back. Now, before we get into it, I just want to say again how freaking great this community has become. The comments, the history that you guys teach me, the things you catch that I completely miss. And just the fact that we're all experiencing this wonderful Pride and Prejudice book together has made reading so much more fun than I could have ever expected. Seriously, you guys rock. And speaking of things that I completely missed, last chapter, guys, Darcy was behind everything? He found Lydia in Wickham. He negotiated with Wickham. He paid off all his debts. He helped secure Lydia's future. And he was perfectly willing to have Uncle Gardner just take all the credit. Meanwhile, Elizabeth is rereading Mrs. Gardner's compliments towards Darcy over and over again, thinking, actually, you could praise him more. Girl, you are done. You are cooked. You are so in love. And now, chapter 53 is upon us, guys. I have no idea where we go from here, but honestly, after that letter, I am ready. But let's travel 200 plus years back in time to see where we go from here. Let's do this. All right, guys, chapter 53. The letter has been dropped, signed, sealed, delivered. And now we know the truth, guys. How are we going to go from here? Well, let's figure it out. So chapter 53. Oh, yes, we are starting off with the person that we all want to see, guys. Don't we all just want to hear how Mr. Wickham's doing? But that's what Jane Austen plans for us, so here we go. Now, Mr. Wickham was so perfectly satisfied with this conversation. Sorry that I have to stop so soon, but are we perfectly satisfied? You didn't even know where to look last chapter. You didn't know where to look. Is that being perfectly satisfied? He knows. He knows that our Lizzie knows the truth. So, outwardly, he's probably going to show, I'm good. I'm perfectly satisfied. Meanwhile, on the inside, you might be pooping in your pants a little bit, but we'll continue on. So he was perfectly satisfied with this conversation, that he never again distressed himself or provoked his dear sister Elizabeth. Yeah, because if you provoke her, she's going to come. Oh, you know this letter? She's going to come with the receipts, okay? That's our girl Lizzie. So don't provoke her. That's the last person you want to provoke. You want to stay on her good side because she knows everything. So he's not going to distress himself about it. She knows. And he's not going to provoke her by introducing the subject of it. Yeah, they are one mind. Let's move forward, right? Let's not talk about the past, okay? And she was pleased to find that she had said enough to keep him quiet. Now, keep in mind, she didn't really say much, guys. But, in these types of situations, you don't really have to say much for them to get the memo. And he got the memo, guys. She didn't have to say anything about, the true past of the letter. She didn't have to say anything about Georgiana. But in there, she gave it to him that, I'd rather, just keep it cordial between us, okay? So let's keep it going. Now, the day of Mr. Wickham, the day of his and Lydia's departure soon came. For Lydia, no, but for Mr. Wickham, goodbye, okay? I'm glad you guys going up north. You guys are going downtown. And, you're going to Newcastle. So, goodbye. And Mrs. Bennet was forced to submit to a separation. Yes, because we know the whole entire time she was hoping, guys, that they would, stick around and live somewhere closer. But we need Wickham to go far, far away. And the irony is that Darcy paid for his commission to go far, far away. That's my dude. That's my dude right there. He's like, if I have any shot of maybe getting in with this family, I'm going to have to situate you far up north, okay? So, yeah. But unfortunately, Mrs. Bennet didn't really like that to a separation with her daughter, right? Her favorite. So, yes. So, Mrs. Bennet was forced to submit to a separation, which, as her husband by no means entered into her scheme of their all going to Newcastle, she's a fighter. She is a fighter. I will have to give it to Mrs. Bennet. She is clearly a fighter, okay? Because she ain't going down without a battle. So whether she was trying to make the whole family go to Brighton, she lost that battle. She's doing it again here. She had a scheme, a plan, a design to go to Newcastle. And not just her, taking the whole fam. But Mr. Bennet is Mr. Bennet. And he's like, lady, not today. Okay? So, yeah, no means he was going to go to Newcastle. Absolutely not. This guy can't even... The farthest he went was London because of this whole shebang that went down. This guy ain't coming out of the house. Okay, he was in the cops once with the letter. But yeah. So, yes, let us continue. So, Mr. Bennet by no means entered into her scheme of their all going to Newcastle, was likely to continue at least a 12-month. Which, I kind of do feel bad for Mrs. Bennet. Her favorite child is now going downtown. She's going up to the north, Newcastle, and you're not going to likely see her for at least 1 year, 12 months. That kind of stinks. So I feel for her there. As far as this whole situation goes, it stinks to have your youngest daughter, the first married, and now she's moving up north where, miles. How many miles, guys? At least I would 50 plus, 100 plus. A long distance by carriage. So, yeah, you can't be seeing them every weekend. Oh, so this is kind of heartbreaking because it's, you as a mother, you're seeing your 16-year-old now leaving, and it's your favorite. Oh. And Mrs. Bennet goes, oh, my dear Lydia, she cried. When shall we meet again? Right, when am I going to see you again? Oh, Lord, I don't know. Not these 2 or 3 years, perhaps. 2 or 3 years. What do we got plans? Mrs. Bennet was like, okay, maybe a year, maybe 12 months. I don't know what's Wickham saying, but, but once again, this might not even be Lydia's, she maybe doesn't really know, anything about time as well. So she's like, oh, not to 2 or 3 years, perhaps. That is way too long. No. Okay. But let's keep it going. So Mrs. Bennet then says, well, write to me very often, my dear. And it stinks because, Mrs. Bennet, I don't know. How do we get up to Newcastle, right? You would have to go by carriage. That's a long way away. And if Mr. Bennet's not on board, would Mrs. Bennet go by herself? That would be kind of crazy. I can't really see that. And then on the other hand, Lydia trying to come down? No. Meaning, come down back to Longbourn, even though she would be going up because she's going closer to London. But yeah, that just kind of stinks. So her mom says, write to me very often, my dear. And Lydia, of course, goes, well, as often as I can, but, married women have never much time for writing. Meanwhile, you're talking to a married woman, your mother. Right? But, married women, they got a lot going on, okay? They got to manage the household now. That is Lydia's responsibility. I can't even imagine this marriage. What's going to happen when they're, in Newcastle, Wickham and Lydia. I can't even imagine what is going to be going on. But I don't think it's going to be some type of marriage where we sit down and we're like, look, I really want children. Lydia probably, but Wickham, I would say absolutely not. But I don't know. We'll keep it going. So Lydia says, but married women have never much time for writing. My sisters may write to me. They will have nothing else to do. Ah, yes, because remember last chapter, she's like, I am the one that's above now. Sorry, Jane. Sorry, I am number 1. Okay? So, yeah. Because all the other sisters aren't married. So what do they got to do? Right? They could write to me. I got more responsibilities than they do. And Mr. Wickham's adieus were much more affectionate than his wife's. Interesting. Interesting because, once again, he wants to get the hell out of here, right? He wants to get the hell out of here. So he's like, the time has come. Goodbye. He will smile at you, charm you until finally they are out of sight. I could totally see that. And it's interesting because now the affection is kind of swapped, right? Lydia's affection towards Wickham is way more, right? And I find her as a much more affectionate person. But Mr. Wickham now coming in hot with the affections and, the adieus and saying goodbye and, I wish you guys all the best of health and the best of luck. Yeah, meanwhile, once they get out of sight, that facade is going to just, mm-hmm. He smiled, looked handsome, and said many pretty things. Yeah, just like we said, because he needs to. He needs to at this case, right? He needs to make the best lasting impression. But we'll keep it going. Now, Mr. Bennet comes in. Ooh, okay. So Mr. Bennet comes in. Here we go. We got glasses for him, right? Mm-hmm. He goes, well, he is as fine a fellow, said Mr. Bennet, as soon as they were out of the house. Meaning the Wickhams, the new Wickhams. They are finally out of the house. Lydia and Mr. Wickham, obviously. He is as fine a fellow as ever I saw. Now, my dude, we know everything that happened, right? We know everything that happened. You didn't forget. This has to be sarcasm. This has to be. There's no way that his brain blacked out the information and is protecting him. No way. I think this is pure sarcasm. And it kind of makes sense because he is Lizzie's father. So he is as fine a fellow as ever I saw. He simpers and smirks and makes love to us all. So Mr. Bennet, if he's doing this sarcastically, because that's who Mr. Bennet is, he's even coming at him and saying, right in front of our faces, he is going to, quote unquote, make love to us all, aka be charming, be affectionate, show that literally nothing is the problem. Yeah. And he is, and then he keeps going and says, well, I am prodigiously proud of him. I'm extremely proud of him. Okay. This has to be sarcasm, guys. I don't think he's being, sincere. And I defy even Sir William Lucas himself to produce a more valuable son-in-law. Because, Mr. Bennet knows that this dude has no money. So he's got no money, nothing, right? Except for a smile on his face. So, and, he defies that even his neighbor, Sir Lucas, would produce a more valuable son-in-law because that's what he is now. He is part of the family. He is your son. He is your son-in-law. And that's it. Till death do us part. And the loss of her daughter made Mrs. Bennet very dull for 7 days. Yeah, it's hard. I could see that. That's her favorite daughter. So her favorite daughter is gone miles and miles and miles to Newcastle. So, and apparently now she's like, I ain't even gonna write to you, okay? Because I got duties. Okay. But Mrs. Bennet comes and says, well, I often think, said she, that there is nothing so bad as parting with one's friends. One seems so forlorn without them. Yes, she is, to quote Jane Austen, very dull, very down, depressed. And I feel it. It's a sucky situation for everything that happened, right, guys? And we've talked about it. Everything has happened to get us to this point, and it is a win for the family, right? For the family's reputation isn't ruined. But it's not a win. Now your daughter is miles away from you. But it had to be. It just stinks. It really stinks. So yeah, that she thinks that there's nothing so bad as parting with friends. And Jane Austen means family is included here. So one seems so forlorn without them. Oh, that stinks. But let's keep it going. Now Elizabeth comes in and says, well, this is the consequence, you see, madame, of marrying a daughter. I guess in general, you have 5 daughters. If you marry them, they're going to be out of the house. That's the consequence that you take. And that's what Mrs. Bennet wants. She wants her 5 daughters to be married. And I think by being married, right, their future is going to be set up, granted that they marry the appropriate person, okay? But because of that, they're going to be out of the house. And especially if it's your favorite daughter, now she's out of the house, you are going to be affected by it. It is a consequence. So that's what Lizzie is basically saying. And it must make you better satisfied that your other 4 are single. Yeah, because if they're single, they're still in the house. So you have family, you have camaraderie, and one daughter has left, but it was your favorite daughter, but you have at least 4 others that family is going to be loud. You still have Kitty, right? And Jane is going to be there, as loving as she is. So the house isn't going to be empty. But, there is a silver lining that still you have 4 other daughters that are single in the house. And Mrs. Bennet comes back and says, well, it is no such thing. Oh, Lydia does not leave me because she is married. I mean, why else would she leave? This whole thing was because she had to get married. That was it. The only way to come back from this type of scandal is for her to get married. But the whole thing was that she was, shipped up to Newcastle, right? And that clearly was Darcy's plan. But let's see now. Lydia does not leave me because she is married, but only because her husband's regiment happened to be so far off. Yeah, that's what it is. That he had a new commission. Now his commission's in the regulars up there, which is interesting because it's kind of like a twofold. Because one, the regulars that Darcy commissioned for is up north. Get the helly away from me, okay? If he's going to try to come in and try to make something happen with Lizzie, right? So that's kind of for his own thing. But also, from what I guys learned from you, the regulars could potentially go off to war. So not only did Darcy ship him up miles and miles and miles away so that he could have peace of mind, but he also potentially shipped him off to war, and we maybe can see what potentially could happen to Wickham if he goes to war. I don't know, but that's a thing. Interesting. But yeah, that's why they're up there. So she's kind of putting the blame on Wickham's regiment, that his new place is up there. But honestly, you couldn't have done it any. He burned so many bridges in Brighton with debts with Meryton. All right, now everything is paid for. Now here's your new thing. He burned the bridges with Colonel Forrester. So, yeah. So you had to go away. You had no other option. If that had been nearer, she would not have gone so soon. So she's putting the blame on Wickham. Once again, who started this whole thing? The whole idea of who is really at to blame here. Lydia did make decisions. Lydia did run off with Wickham. Whose decision is that? That was hers alone. But there are other people before she got to Brighton that potentially were at fault. So the idea is like, where does the blame start? Where does it end, right? So you're putting all the blame on Wickham, but at the same time, you were the one in the beginning to promote to go to Brighton. If you didn't promote to go to Brighton, this whole thing wouldn't have happened. I don't know. Just calling it as I see it. So it's interesting. Once again, it's not Lydia's problem because Lydia and her mother are way too close in personality. So Lydia could absolutely do no wrong. That, it's not her doing. Somebody else is doing this and Lydia just has to go along for the ride. So yeah, it's kind of like Lydia can do no wrong because my, Mrs. Bennet's personality is just way too close. So she can't see that fact. She can't see that. She can't do that introspective stuff. But let's continue on. But the spiritless condition which this event threw her into was shortly relieved. Ooh. So, yeah, for a while there, she was dull, down. It was spiritless, so without spirit, without pep. But apparently, it was shortly relieved. Are we throwing a party or something? Somebody throwing a party? Let's see. And her mind opened again to the agitation of hope. Ooh, by an article of news, which then began to be in circulation. What is the news? What is the news? Maybe, I don't know. It's got to be some type of gossip. That's the only thing that Mrs. Bennet is living for, guys. Marrying off still your 4 daughters now. Maybe we're having a party. Maybe there's a ball. Maybe there's an assembly. Let's see. So what news is in circulation? The housekeeper at Netherfield had received orders to prepare for the arrival of her master. Guys, we got to get them together. Come on. Bingley and Jane, come on. Now, that was the number one. That was the number one relationship of this novel, for sure, right? They broke up. My heart basically broke. We need to get these two together, okay? Let's do this, guys. So the housekeeper at Netherfield had received orders to prepare for the arrival of her master, who was coming down in a day or two. Let's go. Let's go. Come on. To shoot there for several weeks. Meaning maybe shoot game. Maybe it's that type of season. But anyway, Bingley is coming down. Is Carolyn coming down? Probably, right? Because she's with Bingley. Whatever. At this stage of the game, we gotta get Jane and Bingley back. Yeah? Okay. And Mrs. Bennet was quite in the fidgets. Oh my gosh, Lydia, who? Okay, Bingley's coming over. Jane, we must spend all of our money, because we have absolutely tons and tons of money, but we must buy so much clothes. You need to go over. You need to go over to Netherfield right now, okay? You need to stomp on that door and say, Bingley, here I am. So she was quite in the fidgets. She looked at Jane and smiled and shook her head by turns. Jane, this could be it. This could be it, Jane. This could be your destiny. God willing, good gracious, oh my goodness. Yes. Lydia who? Here we go. Oh, wait, who is talking this? This has to be Mrs. Bennet. This is a monologue again? Okay, so here we go. Mrs. Bennet, here we go. Well, and so Mr. Bingley is coming down, sister. Now, hold on, before I go into this whole other thing. It's interesting, she calls, from what I'm assuming from the last page, she's calling Jane sister, right? Maybe that's a Regency thing, and if it is, please let me know. Thank you so much, you guys absolutely rock. But it says, well, and so Mr. Bingley is coming down, sister, for Mrs. Phillips first brought her the news. Oh, wait a second. So she is talking about this whole Netherfield situation with Mrs. Phillips, her actual sister that lives in Meryton. Okay, so this is now making sense. So we're now, so Jane Austen kind of transported us back to when Mrs. Bennet was talking to her sister. So we're not talking to Jane. That's why it's sister. Okay, clocked it in. Here we go. So now Mrs. Bennet is talking to Mrs. Phillips, her sister, and says, well, and so Mr. Bingley is coming down, sister? Well, so much the better. Not that I care about it, though. Girl, you care. Okay, everybody, all of us care, right? We know that you care, okay? Well, so much the better. Not that I care about it, though. He is nothing to us, and I am sure I never want to see him again. But, however, he is very welcome to come to Netherfield, if he likes it. And who knows what may happen, but that is nothing to us. Sister, we agreed long ago never to mention a word about it. And so, it is quite certain he's coming? You care, okay? You're having an internal struggle. She's having an internal struggle right now. She's like, at one point, she's like, Bingley did Jane dirty. Okay. But at the other point, she's like, this could be a second chance. Is he really coming? We won't say anything about him, but Is he coming? I hope he comes. Is he really coming? He's welcome to come. So she's having an internal struggle right now, but we all secretly know that she wants Bingley to come. And now this is Mrs. Phillips coming in, saying, "As you may depend upon it," replied the other, Mrs. Phillips, "for Mrs. Nichols was in Meryton last week. I saw her passing by and went out myself on purpose to know the truth of it." These people are so true to themselves. And we gotta thank Jane Austen for it, because we know if you want any gossip spread, you hit up Mrs. Phillips. And here it comes again. She went out herself on purpose to know the truth. Yeah. Just like if something's happening in the neighborhood, across the street, or down the block, or wherever, I got all the time in the world. I have to get my mail. Yeah. I gotta rake some leaves outside. Yeah. Meanwhile, it's in the middle of winter. Yeah, I'm gonna do something, okay, to just see what's going on out there. Everything good? Everything good in the hood? Okay, we good, fam? Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, that's exactly what Mrs. Phillips did. So I saw her passing by and went out myself on purpose to know the truth of it. And she told me that it was certainly true. He comes down on Thursday, at the latest. Very likely on Wednesday. She was going to the butcher's, she told me, on purpose to order in some meat on Wednesday. And she has got 3 couple of ducks just fitted to be killed. So we're coming into Netherfield, and we're coming in with food. Let's go, guys. Come on. We need an invite. We all need an invite to this get-together, this shebang, whatever's going down at Netherfield, okay? But Mrs. Phillips coming in hot with the gossip. He might be there Thursday. He might be there Wednesday. That's like a day or two later. So this is coming in quick. And yeah, I mean, it seems like everything is getting prepared. The food is coming prepared. So it seems like this is what it is. Okay. And I could probably guess that Bingley's coming, obviously, but he's got the crew. Obviously, Carolyn's probably going to be there. But we know that Darcy is probably going to be there. Maybe this is the plan, guys. I was thinking maybe they might meet at the Gardeners in London, but we might meet him at Netherfield. Come on. Well, let's keep it going. Now, Miss Bennet had not been able to hear of his coming without changing color. Now, would we go white? Would we go red? Jane, white, I don't really think that she would be frightened. I think maybe red, because she still wishes truly the best for Bingley. So she's feeling all types of butterflies in her stomach. She's showing it via the color change on her face. And it was many months since she had mentioned his name to Elizabeth. Yeah, I mean, she wishes him the best. She still thinks that he was the best man in all of the suitors that she's had. And time heals for Jane. But now, all of a sudden, Bingley, the name is coming back, and she's feeling some type of way, which still means, especially if she's changing color, she's still got feels for him, guys. Right? Yeah. So it was many months since she had mentioned his name to Elizabeth. But now, as soon as they were alone together, she said, "Let's go. Jane, just say what's on your mind. Don't try to sugarcoat it, okay? It's okay. Just say what's on your mind. Please, and thank you. Here we go. I saw you look at me today, Lizzie, when my aunt told us of the present report." So Lizzie knows, she's always, especially in moments like this, she is watching everybody. We know that about her. She's watching how you react. Are you side-eyeing? Are you looking straight? Are you deflecting? Are you changing color? Are you looking down? Are you looking up? Right? Is there a smile on your face? She's going to clock that all in. That's our girl, Lizzie. So, Jane, thank you for saying, "Girl, I saw you looking at me." Now, I saw you look at me today, Lizzie, when my aunt told us of the present report, that Netherfield, the master, is coming to Netherfield. And I know I appeared distressed. Yeah, you still think of him in a way that will promote a feeling. Do we know what the feeling is? No, at the present moment, but some feeling is. I don't think that it's not definitely not hatred. That's not Jane. Maybe longing, right? She's maybe longing to see him again. She's really trying to put him out of mind. Time heals, but I don't know. But let's see. But don't imagine it was from any silly cause. Maybe silly meaning how silly it would for me to believe that we would be back together. Now remember, she also knows that Carolyn sucks, right? To put it lack of a better term. But we also got that to work with as well. I was only confused for the moment because I felt that I should be looked at. Now, this I can understand, that Jane was confused coming by from her words, that because she felt that she should be looked at. She is the most personal connection to Bingley. So all of a sudden, when you're around the room with your mother, your sister, and everybody else, and you hear that your previous significant other is coming back to town, who is everybody going to look at? You. So I think that's what she's saying, that she expected that everybody would get the news and then look at Jane. And because Jane knows that, which she needs to stop being introspective. She got to give a little bit to her mother, okay? For her to, give a piece of the pie to your mother. So she knew that right away, that people are going to notice about me, and that's why she was a little confused. Okay. Let's keep it going. Now, I do assure you that the news does not affect me either with pleasure or pain. Now, we know Jane. I wouldn't classify Jane as a liar. The only thing that I would classify Jane as is that she feels things, but then she tries to hold it in and kind of placate everybody else's worry for her. So as of right now, she's saying that the news, Bingley coming into town, doesn't affect her. Maybe time has healed. I mean, there has been what, guys? Months of time that has passed from this part in time, from when they got together. And also, even though it was a super strong, intimate connection, back in the Regency era, they were always talking to each other. Every time that they were together, nobody else was in the room, right? And I kind of felt it too. And once the breakup came, it felt so strong. And the thing is, what I learned from you guys was that the relationship was only like 2 or 3 months. And to me, it felt like they knew each other so much longer. And that's why I think for me, it hurt much more. So they were only together for like 2 or 3 months. And then now we have more months apart. And like I said before, time is healing for Jane. So, okay, neither pain nor pleasure. I'm glad of one thing, that he comes alone. Ooh, so just him. That's intimate. Okay, I was thinking maybe the whole party was coming. But from the housekeeper did say that the master was coming, not like master and friends, not the whole the party, right? So he's coming alone. Okay. Because we shall see the less of him. Yeah. If it's just him, right, and not Carolyn, maybe there's not going to be more occasions for get-togethers or the balls or, letters to come visit them, right? So I think that's what she's basically saying. Not that I am afraid of myself, but I dread other people's remarks. Is this the gossip train, guys? That she dreads other people's remarks as who's going to talk? Her aunt, Mrs. Phillips. The town of Meryton, which we know they have those spicy old ladies up in that joint just talking. And what other better things that they got to do and then just watch outside, see what's going on. So she just doesn't want to be looked at. She doesn't want other people to talk about her. So I get that. I get that because at this point in time, we don't really know what's going to happen with them, right? They could just very well just be acquaintances, past romantic lovers, if we call that them in the relation, in the Regency era. But let's continue on. Now, Elizabeth did not know what to make of it. Yeah, because, well, the thing is that she knows that Darcy was the one that basically separated them two on account of Jane didn't show too much emotion to Bingley. And now it's kind of like you did this whole thing for my sister, right? And that shows that you really do love me, meaning Lizzie. And I don't know, maybe things could be different with Bingley and Jane. Maybe he might take that back. Talk to Bingley about it, right? I don't know. So Elizabeth did not know what to make of it. Had she not seen him in Derbyshire, she might have supposed him capable of coming there with no other view than what was acknowledged. Ah, yes, Bingley was at Pemberley. And remember, he didn't want to say Jane, right? Because he probably would have had a mental breakdown, but he hasn't. He was tracing back dates, guys, right? They haven't seen each other for, I think it was 8 months, right? I haven't seen her since November the 26th, the 26th of November. Dude, you still love Jane, okay? So maybe that's also why she doesn't know what to make of it, because she's looking at Jane saying, "Oh, I just don't want to be talked about in town." She turned color in her face. Meanwhile, she knows that Bingley is basically like, "How's Jane doing? She good? Are all the women still at Longbourn?" AKA trying to ask if Jane has been married off. So, yeah, she might have supposed him capable of coming there with no other view than what was acknowledged. But she still thought him partial to Jane. Yeah, he was bringing in dates the last time they saw each other together, asking about, is everybody still at Longbourn? Yeah, okay. And she wavered as to the greater possibility of his coming there with his friend's permission, or being bold enough to come without it. Now, who's the friend's permission, guys? It's Darcy, I would think, because remember, that's the only dude that if Darcy says jump, Bingley will say, "Oh, hi." So that's the only person's permission that I would think that he would need. So he's coming there because maybe Darcy talked to him about it, just like we kind of said. Or he is kind of going against Darcy, being bold enough to come without the permission, because she knows that Darcy said, "No, you don't want to be with Jane because she doesn't look like she's into you." How much has he gotten that wrong? But let us continue. So now Elizabeth is thinking. She says, "Yes, it is hard," she sometimes thought, "that this poor man cannot come to a house which he has legally hired without raising all this speculation. I will leave him to himself." Yeah, at the end of the day, just let it be. Just let it be that this guy leases Netherfield. He is allowed to come back to his house, yeah? And I think that's the irony that Elizabeth is seeing. This poor man cannot just come back to a house which he has legally hired because he's leasing it, he doesn't even own it, without raising all this speculation. What's the speculation? Is he coming back to see Jane? Does he want to come back to maybe go to Longbourn? Why did he come back? Did Darcy give him permission? Did Darcy change the way that he viewed Bingley and Jane? Did he go against Darcy's permission? What is the speculation? Just leave it alone and let it happen. But let's let it happen so that they get together, guys. Come on. All right? But Elizabeth's like, I'm going to leave it. I'm going to leave it alone. Leave him to himself, which, it's been months. As for Bingley said, I think it was 8 months. So it's been months, guys. So just kind of leave it, I guess, and see what fate has. But here we go. In spite of what her sister declared, right? That she doesn't see any pleasure or pain. She just cares about what the town is going to talk about. So, in spite of what her sister declared, and really believed to be her feelings in the expectation of his arrival, Elizabeth could easily perceive that her spirits were affected by it. I mean, it's been months and still you showed some maybe color on your face, maybe some redness. You still got feels there, right? Because if it didn't cause you any pleasure or pain, you would have been just chilling, right? And yeah, but that didn't happen. So Elizabeth could easily perceive that her spirits were affected by it. They were more disturbed, more unequal than she had often seen them. So, if Elizabeth can perceive it, that must mean that it's on her face, right? That she could easily perceive that Jane's spirits were affected. They were disturbed. They were unequal than she had often seen them. And we know that Jane is cool, calm, and collected, right? She will take everyone's pain and try to just pull it into herself. But apparently, for what Elizabeth knows, and knows of her sister, she is not nor pleasure nor pain. She is definitely feeling something. And from what I'm guessing, it's more affection than hatred. Jane would never be on that side. Jane would be on the love side, the affectionate side, the grateful side, right? So, Elizabeth can catch it. So let's see. Now, the subject which had been so warmly canvassed between their parents about a 12-month ago was now brought forward again. Now, this was the first chapter, guys. We've been a year, about 12 months. So 1 whole year has passed. Wow. 1 whole year. A lot of things went down in 1 year. Oh my gosh. If that was my year, I don't think I would be able to survive it. But this was it, where basically Mrs. Bennet came, "Oh, Mr. Bennet, do you know that Netherfield was let at last?" Remember that? Yeah, that whole big shebang. It was the first chapter. And Mr. Bennet was like, "I don't care, but you will tell me anyway," basically. So this whole thing again, Bingley is coming back to Netherfield. So it's the same type of thing, guys. We are back, and maybe, because we're towards the end of the book here, guys, maybe we're going to get back together again. History will repeat itself. Let's see. Now, Mrs. Bennet said again, "As soon as ever Mr. Bingley comes, my dear," said Mrs. Bennet. "You will wait on him, of course?" Wait, so she was just talking to her sister saying, "Well, he can come to Netherfield, but what do I care? What do I care? Are you sure he's coming?" Because here we go, round 2. And I'm assuming, because Jane is still the oldest, she's the most suited for marriage, we're going to go for Jane again. So it's interesting, though, because we have already formally introduced ourselves to Bingley. We got to do it again, I guess. I would think maybe you would have to do it again if it was maybe a new daughter. But I wouldn't see that we would skip over Jane, right? Because you have that relationship already. Let's keep it going. But Mrs. Bennet's coming in hot, going probably right to Mr. Bennet and saying, as soon as he drops down in Netherfield, you're going to wait on him, right? Because that was the rules of the Regency era. But let's see if Mr. Bennet says anything back. Let's see. So, here we go. Glasses time. He goes, No. You forced me into visiting him last year and promised if I went to see him, he should marry one of my daughters. But it ended in nothing, and I will not be sent on a fool's errand again." Fool me once, can't fool me again, right, guys? Yeah. So, you forced me into visiting him, saying that he was going to marry one of our daughters, and I did it. And nothing came about, so can't fool me again. So, sorry, I'll be in my library. Thank you very much, and have a good day. Mrs. Bennet's not going to like that. Right? Because this was what came out of her depths of dullery, depression, right? Her downness. So she ain't going to say no. She is a fighter. So let's see. his wife represented to him how absolutely necessary such an attention would be from all the neighboring gentlemen on his returning to Netherfield. So Mrs. Bennet, she knows. She's like, well, it's Netherfield, and remember, last time there was a ball. And because there's a ball, there's going to be a lot of other gentlemen. So we just need to get in with Bingley, do it again. We'll get invited to the balls or the assemblies or whatever the parties. And then there's going to be tons of other neighboring gentlemen. That's the hook. Okay. I see you, Mrs. Bennet. So, yeah. But, we'll see, right? Is Mr. Bennet gonna, take it? Let's see. "'Tis an etiquette I despise," said he. "If he wants our society, let him seek it. Why do I gotta go, right? You should come to me. So if he wants our society, let him seek it. He knows where we live. I will not spend my hours in running after my neighbors every time they go away and come back again." The dude he's done. I mean, he's been hit with such a huge, situation in life, I guess. He needs some time to just kind of de-stress. And he is done with it. So he's like, if he wants our society, he knows where we are. Have him come over here. I've already made my introductions with him, right? So he's not going to spend his hours in running after his neighbors every time they go away. Okay. But I'm sure Mrs. Bennet isn't going to like that. She goes, "Well, all I know is that it will be abominably rude if you do not wait on him. But, however, that shan't prevent me asking him to dine here. I am determined." You go, girl. You go, Mrs. Bennet. Come on. So she's all about the etiquette, right? She's all about the rules, the formalities of the Regency era, and that she calls him right out on it. It's abominably rude if you don't want to wait on him. Okay. But don't worry, because that won't prevent me from asking him to dine here. Let's go. She is determined. We must have Mrs. Long and the Gouldings soon. That will make 13 with ourselves, so there will be just room at table for him. Mrs. Bennet, are we doing a head count? Are we doing a head count here? So, we got, how many people now? We got 5 daughters, minus 1 is 4. The 2 parents, so that's 6. We got Mrs. Long coming in with the Gouldings, as many people as they are. That's going to be a total of 13. And I guess the table at Longbourn is 14 people, because there's just room for 1 extra person. It's got to be Bingley, guys. It's got to be Bingley. She is determined. So she's like, okay, if you don't want to go over there, that's fine with me. He will. He will be coming over here. Okay, here we go. Now, consoled by this resolution, she was the better able to bear her husband's incivility. Yeah, because he ain't going to go over, right? That's how he's being, incivil, not civil, right? Not doing the formality thing of the Regency era. So because she has a backup plan, she is super consoled by her own plan, and she's probably pretty happy about that. Though it was very mortifying to know that her neighbors might all see Mr. Bingley in consequence of it before they did. Yeah, because probably you got Mrs. Long with Mrs. Long, right? And maybe the Lucases and the Gouldings, right? We've heard once or twice, I think one more time their name. They're probably, the husband will be going over to Netherfield to ring the bell, right? And because Mr. Bennet isn't going to do so, they're going to have to see him much later, or just later on, than the rest of the families. And Mrs. Bennet's always got to be number 1 in something, right? And that's going to see the gentleman. But okay. Now, as the day of his arrival drew near, so who's talking here? Jane is. Jane's talking. And she goes, "I begin to be sorry that he comes at all." "Oh, no," said Jane to her sister, who's definitely Elizabeth. "I begin to be sorry?" Okay, so there's definitely some feelings there. Okay, There's definitely, I guess, pain, not pleasure, right? But we'll see. It it would be nothing. I could see him with perfect indifference. It would be nothing. I could see him with perfect indifference because it's been months, right? I could be impartial, but you could not, right? You may or you may not. I don't know. But I can hardly bear to hear it thus perpetually talked of. Yeah, because probably who's running their mouth in the household? Your mother, Mrs. Bennet. Nonstop. Lydia's away. What is she going to talk about? She don't know what Lydia's doing up there. She's got to talk about some gentleman. So the gentleman now is going to be Bingley. So because Mrs. Bennet is just who she is, Jane can't hear the end of it. So she, by default, has to think of Bingley, which kind of stinks. But let's keep it going. Now, my mother means well. Yes, isn't that always? But they mean well. But they're completely tearing you apart. But they mean well, right? So my mother means well. But she does not know. No one can know how much I suffer from what she says. Yeah, because you're not over it, you know? You're not over it. Oh, happy shall I be when his stay at Netherfield is over. Yeah, because I guess for Jane, out of sight, out of mind, out of everything, we can move on and go back to being impartial about the whole thing and just have time heal. So she wants Bingley to just be gone. But Elizabeth knows that Bingley still loves Jane, I would think. So I don't know. Let's keep it going. So Elizabeth comes back and says, well, I wish I could say anything to comfort you. Yeah. Well, you could. You could say something. But it wouldn't be good, look, because if she comes back and says, I did see Bingley at Pemberley, and, he's been asking about you. He knows everything. November 26th, 8 months. Then she'll kind of be like, well, why are we not together anymore then? Right? And then it would kind of be like, oh, are we going to tell Darcy that Darcy's involved in this? I don't know. Elizabeth protects Darcy now like, he's number one. So it's just interesting because the more that you tell, the more that you have to tell. So, yeah. So Elizabeth says, I wish I could say anything to comfort you, replied Elizabeth, but it is wholly out of my power. So she's going to not say anything. Because once again, with her thoughts that she had in this previous chapter, she's like, I'm just going to let him live. I'm just going to let him live. Just let the poor guy be able to come back to Netherfield. You must feel it. And the usual satisfaction of preaching patience to a sufferer is denied me, because you have always so much. And I think here Elizabeth is talking about how she has so much patience, which, guys, Jane and patience, yes. Jane is super, super patient. And, it's interesting because, yeah, with times like these, you don't want to kind of completely disregard the person's feelings. You don't want to see them struggling and be like, don't worry about it. It's all good. You don't have to, because clearly they're suffering. You have to kind of accept that and kind of see that and just be there with them. And I think that's what she's getting at. She's saying, you must feel it. This is an important part. Important feelings are going in your mind, and in your body right now. And the usual satisfaction of preaching patience. So kind of just like saying, it's okay, let time pass, because that's, I'm assuming, how you preach patience. Patience comes with time. So, she doesn't want to do that. She's just going to sit here and just be there for Jane while Jane is feeling it, because you have to feel it. You can't just push it under the rug. Let you feel all the feels, guys. All right? But here we go. Now, Mr. Bingley arrived. And Mrs. Bennet, through the assistance of servants, contrived to have the earliest tidings of it, that the period of anxiety and fretfulness on her side being as long as it could. Yes, so I'm assuming Mr. Bennet did not go to see him. Yeah. Mr. Bingley arrived, and Mrs. Bennet contrived, so she basically forced to have the earliest tidings. I wouldn't assume here is the 10% from the church. Probably have the earliest being involved in this situation to see Bingley. And yeah, through the whole thing, there was a period of anxiety and fretfulness, which, yeah, because Mr. Bennet just was like, I'm not doing this anymore. Have him come to us. She counted the days that must intervene before their invitation could be sent. So we're doing it. We're going to the Gouldings, the Longs come over, and there's going to be 13 at the table, one more. So she's waiting for that day. She is counting that the day that their invitation could be sent. Hopeless of seeing him before, because Mr. Bennet, once again, this guy is just, I don't know. I mean, yeah, whatever, guys. We got to find our own way. You can go your own way. Yeah, that's what the family's saying, because apparently Mr. Bennet is just, he's checked out, guys. Go find your own way, okay? But on the third morning after his arrival in Hertfordshire, so the third day, which, guys, I mean, isn't too long at all. But I'm sure first day he's coming, they're knocking on the door, the men. Hey, I have a daughter for you. So the third morning after his arrival in Hertfordshire, she saw him from her dressing room window enter the paddock and ride towards the house. Oh boy. So he's coming. She saw him. This has to be Mrs. Bennet. There's nobody else in this paragraph besides Mrs. Bennet. So she saw him from her dressing room window ride on horseback towards the house. Let's go. And also, I mean, once again, it's the Regency era, so there's always these formalities, right? Does he really want to be there? We know that he wants to be there. So I'm thinking, if he didn't want to be there, would he go? But I would probably say yes, because there was an invitation. So if he could go, I don't think he would just deny it. I think he would go anyway, because that's who Bingley is. But here we go. Now, her daughters were eagerly called to partake on her joy. Yeah, because once again, I mean, Kitty just wants to spice up her life, meaning she just wants, the difference of everyday life just to happen. So if somebody would come to the house, she's over the moon. Lydia, obviously here, she's not here anymore. Jane is feeling some feels. Elizabeth knows that Bingley's coming, so she's excited. Mrs. Bennet, of course, is excited. Mr. Bennet, no. But, as far as the daughters, and sorry, guys, but Middle Mary, I'm assuming she's as eager as well. But she's going to be coming in with her books, which we love her for that, right? She never changes. She is who she is. So her daughters were eagerly called to partake on her joy. And Jane resolutely kept her place at the table. So she was determined. She's just going to sit there, and she's like, I'm good. I'm at the table, we good. But Elizabeth, to satisfy her mother, went to the window, because she's at the dressing room window. So she's probably like, everybody, come on, look and see what he's looking like. Is he wearing a coat? What coat is he wearing? Look at that horse that he's, riding, right? He's riding. And Elizabeth's like, okay, I'll go to the window. So she satisfied her mother, went to the window. She looked and saw Mr. Darcy with him. Guys, that's it. Game over. Let's just wrap it up, okay? Everybody else just leave the house, okay? I'm sorry, Jane, Bingley. You guys got to do whatever you got to do, but, we need our space here, okay? Because this is much more certain than the the Bingley Jane thing. Okay, we are like so close. We are almost touching, guys. Come on. So he's here. Come on. Now, also, before my brain blasts off into outer space, we have to remember that Elizabeth is not supposed to know what Mr. Darcy did, right? I think Mrs. Gardiner told her, but, well, obviously Mrs. Gardiner told her, but I think she told her and it was supposed to be kept a secret. So the fam also doesn't know either. So we also have this secret that we gotta hold deep, okay, guys? So she saw Mr. Darcy with him and sat down again by her sister. I could totally see this. She saw Darcy. She was like, I gotta sit down. I gotta sit down. And she goes right to Jane. So basically the two girls that are feeling the feels, they can't even stand at this point. They have to sit down at the table. And Kitty comes in and says, "There's a gentleman with him, Mamma," said Kitty. "Who can it be?" Well, do you not recognize him from the Netherfield ball? Kitty was with Lydia, though. She was having a grand time, so yeah, I wouldn't put it past her that she didn't really know who Darcy was. But let's see. Now, she's asking Mamma, so Mrs. Bennet's coming and says, "Some acquaintance or other, my dear, I suppose. I am sure I do not know. Girl, put on your glasses. Come on, right? Put them on. You also were at the Netherfield ball. You know of the tolerable comment. However, were we close enough in range? I mean, well, Darcy was at the table at the Netherfield ball when Mrs. Bennet was going off saying, "Oh, there's going to be a marriage soon," even though there wasn't even an engagement soon. And Darcy was kind of like, shocked and just kind of looking at her like, "What the hell are you saying?" But once again, that was almost 12 months ago. So, you see a face for 12 months and then that's basically the end of it. Okay, I'll give her that. But let's keep it going. Oh, they're coming, guys. Mr. Darcy with him, it says. And he probably is on the right side, I would say, because he's always in that dark blue dapper suit. Love it. And there's Bingley on the left. And yeah, I would picture Bingley because, he's our golden retriever king. He definitely has lighter hair than Darcy, I would say. Darcy is very strict, reserved, very formal looking, very sharp features. So I would say, on the darker side of the hair and darker colors. Cute. Okay, let's keep it going. I gotta keep reading. Here we go. And Kitty goes, "La!" Just like Lydia. "La!" repeated Kitty. "It looks just like that man that used to be with him before." Ah, here it comes back. Yes. Mr. What's its name? That tall, proud man. Yeah, she knows. She knows. So, yeah, I mean, where else? He didn't come to Longbourn, right? And it would have had to have been the Netherfield ball. Or it could have been the Meryton Assembly as well. The Meryton Assembly was the tolerable comment, and then there was the ball. So, both times, right? And who says this? This has to be her mother. "Good gracious, Mr. Darcy! And so it does, I vow. Well, any friend of Mr. Bingley's will always be welcome here, to be sure, but else I must say that I hate the very sight of him." Yeah, because as much as Mrs. Bennet is a fighter, she's gonna be a fighter for her daughters. So if anybody says anything bad about them, you're in the trash. And that's basically what happened with Darcy. She's going back with the tolerable comment. So he has got to make the biggest of the biggest impressions right now. You better do it. Dude, you better do it. Put down the pride, right? Put down the family objections, which we know that he said he could overlook. Show it. Show it, my dude. Let's do this. Here we go. Whew, my gosh, my heart, guys. Okay, here we go. So Jane looked at Elizabeth with surprise and concern. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot going around that table. So Jane's now looking at Elizabeth. Elizabeth was looking at Jane with the whole Bingley thing. Now Jane's looking at Elizabeth with the whole Darcy thing. And so she's shocked, she's concerned. And once again, Jane is just trying to take away maybe Lizzie's emotions, right? So she's concerned for her, she's shocked for her. She knew but little of their meeting in Derbyshire, and therefore felt for the awkwardness which must attend her sister. Yeah, I mean, let's backtrack, guys, because Jane only knows, from what I can remember, right? Jane only knows Hunsford Darcy. Jane only knows that he asked for Lizzie's hand in marriage, and Lizzie said no. And then she knows that there was some type of letter. And Lizzie told in the letter to Jane that, you know, everything, even the Georgiana side, but it was mostly about how Wickham was horrible, right? But she knows that Darcy was rejected. So she knows of only the past feelings that Elizabeth has. Jane, from what I'm trying to remember, Jane doesn't know Pemberley Darcy, okay? And Hunsford Darcy and Pemberley Darcy are two totally different Darcys. Yet, you know, mind you, he was the same person, but just the difference is how Elizabeth viewed him from Hunsford to Pemberley. But I don't think Jane knows of the new views that Elizabeth has. She's been holding it in all to herself. I don't think, because honestly, guys, there's been so much. She's come home to Pemberley. This has been like 10 chapters in the making. And we've just been concerned about Lydia. I don't think that Elizabeth had any time or anything to talk to Jane about her new feelings. So everything is happening so quick that there's really no time, right? Because even maybe if Elizabeth wanted to talk to Jane, now all of a sudden, poof, Bingley's back in town. So it's kind of like, you know, they never really got time to talk about it. So I think that's the issue. But let's continue on. So therefore, Jane felt the awkwardness which must attend her sister in seeing him almost for the first time after receiving his explanatory letter. This was the Hunsford letter, yes. And do we even know, does Jane even know that she went to Pemberley, right? She knows that she went to see the Gardners on vacay, but I don't know. But let's keep it going. Now, both sisters were uncomfortable enough. Yeah, one for Bingley, one for Darcy. And each felt for the other. Yeah. Because that's how you kind of get through these situations. You don't want to think about your own troubles. You're like, what possibly could Jane be doing if you were Elizabeth? And then Jane, on the other hand, is like, oh man, Elizabeth must be feeling this. And because of that, maybe it makes it a little bit easier for yourself. So each felt for the other. And of course, for themselves. Yes. So there's a lot of stuff going on. And their mother talked on of her dislike of Mr. Darcy and her resolution to be civil to him only as Mr. Bingley's friend, without being heard by either of them. Yeah. Now, have they come into the house at this point? I don't know. But if not, obviously they wouldn't hear. But if they have, they still did not hear her, because it says without being heard by either of them. So either they're right coming into the house, or they are in the house, guys. They're in Longbourn. But yeah. But, you know, Mrs. Bennet's like, I'm just going to be civil to him because I want someone to be Bingley's wife. Okay? So she's going to do whatever she got to do. And she better be truthful to it, okay? Don't be doing all crazy kind of stuff, okay, please? Thank you. Let's keep it going. But Elizabeth had sources of uneasiness, which could not yet be suspected by Jane. Yeah, you think? Because Jane, this probably now solidifies it, that Jane doesn't know Pemberley Darcy, okay? And obviously, Jane doesn't know that Darcy did everything for Lydia and Wickham, right? So there's more sources of uneasiness. She's got a lot going on, guys. And to whom she had never yet had courage to show Mrs. Gardner's letter. There it is. That she's feeling more uneasy because is going goo goo gaga, guys. This girl is completely cooked. And she can't really say anything to Jane because obviously it's too late. But also, she didn't tell Jane about Mrs. Gardner's letter. Or to relate her own change of sentiment towards him. Yeah, she doesn't know what happened at Pemberley. Remember when she stared in front of a painting for, 40 minutes of Darcy's face? I mean, come on. But Jane doesn't know that. And to Jane, he could be only a man whose proposal she had refused. Yeah, basically, the last thing she heard was, he proposed to Lizzie, she said no, here's a letter, goodbye, that's it. So, yeah, she could only see the man who proposed, whose proposal she had refused, and whose merits she had undervalued. So, yeah, to Jane, the proposal that Lizzie refused, and also the merits that Lizzie undervalued, because he asked you to marry him, right? Clearly, he had better merits than you thought that he did. But let's keep it going. But to her own more extensive information, he was the person to whom the whole family were indebted for the first of benefits. Yeah. Yes, extensive information, aka she knows way more than the whole entire family. He is the one that made it happen. Darcy is the person who the whole entire family is indebted to, not Gardner. And whom she regarded herself with an interest. Yeah, this is your person, girl. Come on. If not quite so tender, at least as reasonable and just as what Jane felt for Bingley. Love, guys. Come on, it's love. Jane and Bingley, any time that they were together, guys, it was those two against the whole entire world. Literally, the country could be in flames, and they wouldn't even notice it, right? Am I right, guys? That's how deep it was. And if you can compare that to now your feelings to Darcy, whew, girl, we gotta get them together. Come on, Jane Austen. I'm waiting for it. Come on. So here we go. Now, her astonishment at his coming, I'm assuming it's Lizzie's astonishment with Darcy coming along for the ride, at his coming to Netherfield, to Longbourn, and voluntarily seeking her again. Kiki, come on, just keep it together, please, for the love of this book. Ooh, okay. So her astonishment at his coming was almost equal to what she had known on first witnessing his altered behavior in Derbyshire. Girl, you haven't seen him in a while. We haven't seen him in a while, guys. But what was it? Voluntarily seeking her again. Yeah, her astonishment to this day was almost equal when she was witnessing him back at Pemberley, at Derbyshire. So, girl, you're in love. Okay, this is what it is. This is what it is to be in love, okay? You can't stop thinking about them. You just want to be with them. And she shooketh. Guys, come on. So, yeah. And, she's also putting all this together. Like, he came to Netherfield. He is now in my house. He wants to see me again. Yeah. Girl, you reading it right. You are reading it right. Now, the color, which had been driven from her face, returned for half a minute with an additional glow. So this is probably the astonishment. She probably couldn't believe that he was here, right? Because they do have a long, long, long history. She did say no to the proposal, but still, he is trying to just be with her. So for a hot second there, it seemed like all the color was driven from her face. So maybe she was turning a little whitish, but then the true feeling came, right? You're kind of like shocked that they're here, and then all of a sudden the color is just starting to go. Additional glow and a smile of delight added luster to her eyes. Girl, guys, we are so dead. With all of us. I mean, come on. So, the smile of delight, she can't stop smiling as she thought for that space and time that his affection and wishes must still be unshaken. Girl, I think this is the first time. Well, I don't want to say first time, but I want to say one of the first times where she is not. It's not really questioning, guys. These are like, this is just what it is at this point in time. That she is not questioning his affection. She is now knowing for sure that he still has affection for her, that he still wishes that he wants to be with her. But she would not be secure. Girl, I was just saying you were good. You were good. You were reading it for what it is. But I do have to take a step back. And maybe this is her glow up moment. Because before, she would have read all this and said, yeah, this is for sure. This is definitely why he's here. And because she's trying to fight her own prejudices, she doesn't want to jump the gun a little bit. She doesn't want to assume that maybe that's why she still has a little bit of doubt that she would not be secure. Okay, which I see that. I mean, it's clear as day, but let's keep it going. Now, Elizabeth says, let me first see how he behaves. And I like that. He hasn't even opened his mouth yet. We have no idea what's going to come out. Everything looks good as far as outward wise. Everything is going good. But yeah, let's just see how he behaves, because it could be a completely different story. So let me first see how he behaves, said she. It will then be early enough for expectation. So she wants more things to go off of, which I can totally get behind. Let's see how he behaves. But as of right now, it all looks good. But we got to see how he behaves. And from then we can maybe make an assumption, maybe a superstition, a hypothesis. All right? But here we go. So she sat intently at work, at that table, striving to be composed. Yeah, don't blow it, right? It's hard because you want to show him that my feelings have changed for you, but don't show it too fast because we got to see how he behaves first. I get it. So she's striving to still be composed, guys, and without daring to lift up her eyes till anxious curiosity carried them to the face of her sister as the servant was approaching the door. Okay, so they didn't even come in yet. This is the moment. So she's trying to say, Elizabeth, just breathe in, breathe out. Okay, just keep doing that. She's working on breathing, just trying to be cool, calm, and collected, striving to keep composed. She wasn't even trying to even lift open her eyes. Girl, okay, we could look down. But, but there was some anxious curiosity carried her eyes to the face of her sister. So she's now looking at Jane as the servant approached the door because she wants to see what Jane looks like when that door's open. Now, Jane looked a little paler than usual, but more sedate than Elizabeth had expected. Okay? So there's still some type of feeling there. It's paleness. It's not blushing. And this could be just like what Elizabeth felt, right? Because it did say that the color drew from her, but then she had the glow. Maybe that's now Jane's time. She looked a little paler, but maybe the glow might come, but we'll see. Now, on the gentleman's appearing, her color increased. There it was, guys. Jane Austen, we got to give it to you, right? So it's the same thing, guys. The color was drawn from her. She looked a little paler. Boom, the gentleman have appeared, and her color increased. Okay. Now, yeah, I would think it's Jane's color that increased. Yet, she received them with tolerable ease and with the propriety of behavior equally free from any symptom of resentment or any unnecessary complacence. Yeah, okay, so everything's going good. She's got propriety, she's got the formalities, She's being very cordial. She has very cordial, warming, welcoming behavior. There's free from any symptom of resentment. She's not going to hold Bingley against her for anything like that, against whatever happened between them. Okay. That's our Jane, though. She would never, ever do anything like that. But let's keep it going. Now, Elizabeth said as little to either as civility would allow. Yeah, she wants to see the behavior. So she's just going to be super straight shooting. She's just going to, I don't know. I don't even know where she's looking at this point. She was looking down. Now she's looking at Jane. But she's not going to say much. She said as little to either as civility would allow and sat down again to her work. Now, with an eagerness which it did not often command. Yeah, she's drowning, guys. I mean, she just wants to make herself look busy. Okay, so she's trying to do whatever she can in her power to just kind of take herself away from the situation. And I kind of get it. But I mean, Darcy's not going to be waiting around. He's probably going to come to you, okay? But let's see. Now, she had ventured only one glance at Darcy. What's he doing? He looked serious as usual. Yes. And she thought, more as he had been used to look in Hertfordshire than as she had seen him at Pemberley. Oh, no. But I will say, okay, he's more serious than usual, right? Or he looked serious as usual, but more so when he was at Hertfordshire, which is the Netherfield ball, right? The Meryton Assembly. That was prideful Darcy, disdainful Darcy, serious Darcy, not warm Darcy, caring Darcy that was at Pemberley. But I think he's just out of his element. He's probably nervous as hell, guys. So he's nervous, which will show off as being super serious because he doesn't want to mess it up. Meanwhile, Elizabeth thinks that she's doing the best needlework of her life. She's getting to work. What are we doing? Just put down the needles. Come on, okay? Let's just put down whatever we're doing and let's just come together. Please? Okay. But that's how I see it, that he's a little bit more serious because, A, he's super nervous, and that might come off as just being stiff. But let's see. Now, but perhaps he could not, in her mother's presence, be what he was before her aunt and uncle. Yeah, because with Mr. and Mrs. Gardiner, he's caring, he knows them, and he likes them. But, he cannot be who he is with the Gardiners with Mrs. Bennet, because they are not the same. Now, it was painful, but not an improbable conjecture. So that's what Lizzie's feeling, or that's what she's thinking of. That's like her superstition, like her assumption, that, because of the family objections and your mother's crazy, I can't do it. I'm sorry, I can't be dealing with this lady, okay? So I'm just going to be serious, whatever. But that's what Lizzie's seeing. Let's keep it going. Now, Bingley, she had likewise seen for an instant, and in that short period saw him looking both pleased and embarrassed. Pleased, yeah, because it's Golden Retriever Bingley. Embarrassed because we are now in the presence of Jane Bennet again. So, and also, he listened to Darcy. Darcy said, we should split you guys up. So, I don't know, because he also looks like he's got some feelings for Jane still. He was received by Mrs. Bennet with a degree of civility which made her two daughters ashamed, especially when contrasted with the cold and ceremonious politeness of her courtesy and address of his friend. So, Jane and Elizabeth are ashamed of their mother, mainly because maybe 5 seconds ago, Mrs. Bennet was like, I don't care if Bingley comes. But now, she is receiving him very warmly with a high sense of civility. I wonder why. But also contrasted with how she's receiving Darcy. Very cold and ceremonious, much more formal than Bingley, right? Bingley's introduction is much more warmer that Mrs. Bennet is giving. And then Darcy, she's kind of like, oh, Darcy, hi. But I could kind of see that, right? You kind of want to make both people kind of feel welcome in your home. Now, Elizabeth particularly, who knew that her mother owed to the latter the preservation of her favorite daughter from irredeemable infamy. Yeah, because she knows more. Mrs. Bennet is literally looking at Darcy being like, I remember the tolerable comment. Meanwhile, he's the one that saved the whole family, especially Lydia's irredeemable infamy. Yeah, those are harsh words. But yeah, that Elizabeth knows that her mother owes Darcy the preservation, the reputation of Lydia from irredeemable infamy. She was hurt and distressed to a most painful degree by a distinction so ill applied. Yeah, because that's who you're supposed to be indebted to. Meanwhile, you're acting all crazy and cold and disgusting towards somebody who's coming into your house. So Elizabeth is not liking that. Now, Darcy, after inquiring of her how Mr. and Mrs. Gardiner did, a question which she could not answer without confusion, said scarcely anything. So this is awkward, because now Darcy's coming to, it seems like Elizabeth, asking how Mr. and Mrs. Gardiner are, because apparently to him, the last time that they all saw each other was at Pemberley. Meanwhile, Darcy's been going all behind the scenes, talking with the Gardiners, doing the money deals, sending them away, and all that jazz. But that question, she couldn't answer without confusion, because Elizabeth knows what went down. You've seen the Gardiners. You know how they are. But, after that whole address, Darcy didn't really say anything. Meanwhile, Elizabeth's like, I'm going to see how he behaves. This ain't going well. But once again, why would he do all this stuff then? Come on. But, he was not seated by her. Perhaps that was the reason of his silence. Right, because he don't want to talk to nobody else. If anything, he would talk to Jane. But he doesn't want to talk to anybody else. He wants to talk to Elizabeth. That's why he came. But, they didn't seat together, and now he's in silence. But it had not been so in Derbyshire. Yeah, it was completely different back then. There he had talked to his friends when he could not to herself. But now several minutes elapsed without bringing the sound of his voice. Ugh, come on. So he's not saying anything, right? Several minutes went by without bringing the sound of his voice. And when occasionally, unable to resist the impulse of curiosity, she raised her eyes to his face. She wants to know. She wants to see that behavior, guys. So she's, out of curiosity, she's looking up to his face. And she, as often, found him looking at Jane as at herself. Maybe he's thinking about what he said to Bingley about how, dude, you can't be with Jane. She doesn't show it. Maybe he's now looking at Jane to see if there's any lingering love for Bingley. That's what it says, She, as often, found him looking at Jane as at herself. Now, please, Elizabeth, don't think that Darcy wants Jane. Please, do not be thinking that way. We don't got enough chapters for that, girl. Come on. And frequently, on no object but the ground. Yeah. Because there's a lot going through his mind as well. So he's looking at Jane. He's probably inspecting how she is doing. He's looking at Elizabeth and the ground. Sounds like a good hangout, right? Let's keep it going. Now, more thoughtfulness and less anxiety to please than when they last met were plainly expressed. Yeah. I mean, he's going back to Hertfordshire, guys. Hertfordshire Darcy, where he's not being as thoughtful. He's less anxious to please. He was trying to please everyone, right? He was trying to say to be in pleasure with Elizabeth back then, right? And he wanted to make sure that the gardeners were all cool and everything, and Lizzie was cool, and he was going out of his way to make everybody feel happy and, comfortable in his home. He ain't doing any of that here. He's looking over here, he's looking over there, he's looking down. That's it. So more thoughtlessness and less anxiety to please is definitely here than when they last met. Were plainly expressed. You could plainly see it, guys, clear as day. And she was disappointed and angry with herself for being so, we only got how many chapters left, guys? So, I mean, she was, she is doing her work where she doesn't want to make the assumption right on. Let's see the behavior, then we'll see. The behavior ain't looking good, guys. But Darcy, come on. Whatever. We're on this ride together, so, okay. Now she goes, "Well, could I expect it to be otherwise?" said she. "Yet, why did he come?" Now, it said she, but I'm sure that, it's either she's saying this very, very low under her breath that nobody can hear. But meanwhile, they're not sitting next to each other. And maybe that's why he's not talking, because they're not together. So he's not going to put himself out of the way. This ain't his estate, okay? This is the Bennet's estate. They should be the ones that are kind of like trying to make Darcy at home. But he saw right from the get that he was introduced coldly by Mrs. Bennet. And where is even Mr. Bennet? Is he in the library? We don't know. But, could I expect it to be otherwise? Yet, why did he come? Why did he come? Did Mr. Bingley invite him to come? I don't know, but we'll see. She was in no humor for conversation with anyone but himself. She just wanted to talk to him. And to him, she had hardly courage to speak. So basically, yeah, we've all been there, right? I mean, you really want to talk to someone, but you just don't have the courage to speak up and talk. And yeah, that's a thing. That's a thing. So she didn't want to talk to anybody else but him, but she just didn't have the courage. Come on, Lizzie, come on. Now she inquired after his sister, but could do no more. Georgiana. She's so precious, guys. She's so precious. But Mrs. Bennet comes in now and says, "Well, it is a long time, Mr. Bingley, since you went away," said Mrs. Bennet. Yeah, and he readily agreed to it, right? Because we're all civil and everything. Yup. Now, I began to be afraid you would never come back again. And this kind of reminds me of the beginning where she thought that Bingley was just going to like hop from place to place, and she didn't want that, right? So he kind of did what she was afraid that he was going to do, hop from here to there and not really be settled at Netherfield. "So I began to be afraid you would never come back again. People did say you meant to quit the place entirely at Michaelmas. But, however, I hope it is not true. A great many changes have happened in the neighborhood since you went away." What? A great many changes? Well, yeah, I mean, the whole entourage left and went to Brighton, guys. The whole militia got up and left out of Meryton. Also, changes in the neighborhood. Lydia's not with us anymore. She's in Newcastle. So is that all the changes that we're talking about? And yeah, it also brings it back to 1 year because he was supposed to be in Netherfield by Michaelmas in the beginning of the book. Now, people did say you meant to quit the place entirely at Michaelmas. So I'm assuming that that's this year, Michaelmas, 1 year, 12 months. So she was afraid that he never wasn't going to come back. Are you leaving Netherfield? Tell me all the details. That's what Mrs. Bennet wants to know, right? But let's see. Now, Miss Lucas is married and settled. Girl, why are we telling him everyone's business? Stop. Okay? But honestly, what else does she have to talk about? But this also maybe goes with propriety, right? How she is just telling everybody's stories and stuff. Just stop showing them that you're going to run your mouth in front of everybody else. But that's Mrs. Bennet, you know? So here we go. Well, Miss Lucas is married and settled, and one of my own daughters are married as well. And I suppose you have heard of it. Oh, yeah. Yeah, everybody heard of that one. Everybody did hear of that one. You got that right, Mrs. Bennet. Oh, indeed. You must have seen it in the papers. Oh. So maybe they did go the band's route, guys. Maybe it wasn't enough time. I don't know. But that was something in the comments that we have been talking about. So maybe because it was in the papers, that's the band's route of marriage. So maybe we didn't go the express license route. I don't know. But, indeed, you must have seen it in the papers. It was in the Times and the Courier. I know. Yeah, we know you know. We know you know. Mm-hmm. Though it was not put in as it ought to be. Okay. Yep, something had to go wrong, right? And if something goes wrong in Mrs. Bennet's world, you'll hear about it. It was only said lately, George Wickham, Esquire, to Miss Lydia Bennet. That's it. It was only said, without there being a syllable said of her father. Okay. Or the place where she lived, or anything. I guess you had to say, the dad and where it's happening. So, maybe that's just Regency etiquette, but you guys will let me know, and thank you so much. But yeah, nothing about her father, nothing about where she lived or anything. Now, it's interesting because I would assume Darcy set this up as well. Maybe Darcy was the one that didn't want the dad's name on there or where they lived. Maybe because he knew that this was such a scandal to kind of like separate, the family with Lydia. Maybe he did that on purpose. I don't know. But Mrs. Bennet doesn't see it that way. She seems it shameful that, they forgot to put Mr. Bennet's name and Longbourn or anything. And it was my brother Gardner's drawing up too. Yes. Was it? Mm-hmm. And it was my brother Gardner's drawing up too, and I wonder how he came to make such an awkward business of it. Do you see it? Did you see it? Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah, it wasn't your brother who did that. Sorry to let you know, but yeah, it wasn't your brother. It was Darcy. But maybe that was it. He didn't want it to come back, just in case anybody thinks that it was a huge deal, a huge big scandal. Maybe that was it. Well, let's keep it going. Now, Bingley replied that he did see it in the papers, because it was in the Times, it was in the Courier. Hey, it was all over. And made his congratulations, because what else would you say, right? And Elizabeth dared not lift up her eyes. How Mr. Darcy looked, therefore, she could not tell. Yeah, because it was all his doing. It's not Gardner's doing. But Mrs. Bennet's going to keep talking. And it's a delightful thing, to be sure, to have a daughter well married. Do you catch my drift? What I'm trying to say, Bingley? I have 4 other daughters here. It's a delightful thing for a daughter to be married. And I have 4 daughters here. You want to pick one? So that was all continued by Mrs. Bennet, continued her mother. But at the same time, Mr. Bingley, it is very hard to have her taken away from me. Yeah, because she's miles and miles and miles up north. But we could thank Darcy for that one. They are all gone down. Now I know, guys. Thanks in the comments. They are all gone down to Newcastle because they're going away from the capital. A place quite northward, it seems. And there they are to stay. I do not know how long. And once again, it's not Lydia because it's the regiment that's keeping Wickham away. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Interesting. So, yeah, at the same time, it's great to have a daughter married, but it stinks because now she's out of the house. But in this case, I mean, she's miles and miles and miles away from the house. But you do it Darcy's way or no way. So let's keep it going. His regiment is there. There's the blame again. That's why they had to go miles and miles and miles up. His regiment is there, for I suppose you have heard of his leaving the Shire, and of his being gone into the regulars. Thank heaven he has some friends, though perhaps not so many as he deserves. Dude, this dude doesn't deserve anything. Okay? He deserves zilch. Nada. Nothing. He doesn't even deserve Lydia as a wife. Okay? This guy does not deserve anything. This guy deserves to just live in hell. That's what he deserves to live in. But anyway, let's keep it going. So, yeah. But he's gone off to the regulars. Okay. Now, Elizabeth, who knew this to be leveled at Mr. Darcy, yeah, because he decided all of it, was in such misery of shame that she could hardly keep her seat. Yeah, because Mrs. Bennet is going on talking, technically, behind Mr. Gardner's back. Meanwhile, the person who did it all is right in front of your face. So Elizabeth is just in so much shame. She's doing secondhand embarrassment. She's got so much secondhand embarrassment, misery of shame, that she could hardly keep her seat. And it drew from her, however, the exertion of speaking, which nothing else had so effectually done before. So, guys, if it was anyone to get Elizabeth to speak, it would be her own mother. It would, because I mean, there's just a level of mortification that you can go to, and once you reach past that level, you gotta stand up. You gotta say something. And Elizabeth's level has been reached, guys. She's in so much mortification, so much secondhand embarrassment. She can't believe what is going on. That she's gonna speak. The exertion of speaking, it drew from her. So let's see. And she asked Bingley whether he meant to make any stay in the country at present. So, speak how? Let's just divert the question a little bit. Let's just ask whether Bingley is going to stay in the country for a little while. A few weeks, he believed. Okay, that's still some time to do some work for Jane. Well, let's keep it going. Now Mrs. Bennet comes back and says, "When you have killed all of your own birds, Mr. Bingley." So yes, that's the whole shooting. They were shooting for birds. Okay. So when you have killed all your own birds, Mr. Bingley, said her mother, I beg you will come here and shoot as many as you please on Mr. Bennet's manor. I am sure he will be vastly happy to oblige you, and will save all the best of the conveys for you. Yeah. Because remember, Mr. Bennet didn't go to his house to formally do the whole introduction thing again. So this is now another way of Mrs. Bennet saying, come on over again. Come on over, because my husband can't do anything. So she's going to have to make her own way out here. So once you're done at your place, come on over to mine, please. He will be so happy to oblige you. Yeah, we know that that's not true. That's the last thing Mr. Bennet wants to be doing. But she's trying her best. She's trying to make it work. Now, Elizabeth's misery increased at such unnecessary, such officious attention. Yeah, I mean, pushy, can we say? She's coming out. She hasn't seen this guy in how long? 12 months? Roughly around? She's coming in and telling him what to do after he's done shooting his birds. Come on over here. She's trying in her own way, but not the right way, right? The more unruly way of going about the things. But that's the only way that she knows how to do it. And Elizabeth's just had enough. I mean, she's had so much misery, secondhand embarrassment. And mind you, the love of her life is sitting right across the table. And he's watching it all. This is like having flashbacks back to the Netherfield ball, guys, where she's doing the same thing. She has not learned. There's so many people that have grown up in this novel. Mrs. Bennet ain't one of them. So the same mistakes that she was making a year ago, she's making them now. So this might cost, once again, Darcy for her. So Elizabeth is just in so much misery because she's like, Mother, can you please hold it together? But she's going to be running her mouth, so, Now, were the same fair prospect to arise at present as had flattered them a year ago, everything, she was persuaded, would be hastening to the same vexatious conclusion. And yet again, the family objections, you can't get removed from it, guys. Even though, and even Bingley's in front of her, right? And even though, for Bingley, the family objections would have been okay because he's lower on the social ladder than Darcy. But Darcy had to really push behind his feelings towards that. But now he's looking at them straight in the face. And she's literally doing it again. The whole Netherfield ball was atrocious. It was such a disaster. She's talking about how Bingley and Jane are going to get married. There was no engagement, right? Mary is just up there just doing whatever. Kitty and Lydia are just being themselves. And that was one of the things I believe that Darcy told Elizabeth during the proposal after she basically said no. So Elizabeth is just clocking this all in, and she's like, it's going to happen again. It's going to happen again, and the love of my life is just going to walk out the door now. And now she really can see that there's no coming back from this, because clearly nobody, Mrs. Bennet, has not changed. So, And, yeah, at that instant, Elizabeth felt, that years of happiness could not make Jane or herself amends for moments of such painful confusion. Yeah, because you're killing both your daughters for the price of one. Basically, you're killing two birds with one stone. Because at the same moment, you're telling Bingley what to do and trying to get him to go back with Jane, and Jane's right there. Jane is probably just completely, her soul has left her body, guys. And Elizabeth isn't far behind. But at the same time, she's also, acting all crazy. And Darcy's at the table too. And this woman is so tone deaf. She can't see. Read the room. Read the room, girl. There's so many colors going on in the faces for everybody. Can't we just read the room and look at everybody's face and say, oh, shoot, something's going on here. Let me see how the food's going in the kitchen. Come on. But let us continue. So this has to be Elizabeth. So she says, well, the first wish of my heart, said she to herself, is nevermore to be in company with either of them. Well, this is going great. The first wish that she wants is to just never see these two dudes ever again. This is not going great, guys. Yay. So she doesn't even want to be in any of their company. Second hand, third hand, fourth hand embarrassment, first hand. She's just mortified. But the thing is that for as much as Darcy went to not have Lydia mortified, Mrs. Bennet is basically mortifying her own daughter. So, yeah, take that for what it is. So she never more wants to be in their company. And their society can afford no pleasure that will atone for such wretchedness as this. Yeah, there's nothing you can do that will atone for her mother's craziness, wretchedness, just unruliness. She's as wild as Lydia is. But let me never see either one or the other again. She's done. Wow. In the beginning of this chapter, guys, we were so hopeful. I ain't smiling. This is slipping so fast. It's not like a light drizzle, okay? This is like a severe thunderstorm that just happened so quickly. And it's not good. It's not good. Yet, the misery for which years of happiness were to offer no compensations. It's even said again that years of them being happy, Jane and Elizabeth, would not be able to atone for this misery at this present moment. So, yet the misery, for which years of happiness were to offer no compensation, received such afterwards material relief. From observing how much the beauty of her sister rekindled the admiration of her former lover? Wait. Jane? Yet the misery, where was it? Yet the misery from observing how much the beauty, received soon afterwards material relief from observing how much the beauty of her sister rekindled. Jane, we knew it, guys. Now it's interesting because Jane can't help herself, right? Jane, she's just gonna love who she loves, right? And she's loving Bingley. When first he came in, he had spoken to her, but little. But every 5 minutes seemed to be giving her more of his attention. Yeah, it didn't die, guys. They need to rekindle their relationship. Meanwhile, the mother is going off crazy in the distance. But once again, this kind of shows that literally Mrs. Bennet is just talking, and they, just like I said, guys, that the whole town could just blow up in flames, and there would be Jane and Bingley. And that's basically what it is. That's the analogy here. Mrs. Bennet is tearing down Longbourn in flames. And they're going strong. They're rekindling it. Oh, come on. Here we go. He found her as handsome as she had been last year, as good-natured and as unaffected, though not quite so chatty. Yeah, I mean, there are some things going on around the table here tonight. So, yeah, okay, but we'll get back into it. I think there's a little bit of trust maybe that kind of got lost in the mix, but she'll get back. She'll be chatty. She'll come back. And Jane was anxious that no difference should be perceived in her at all. Yeah, right, because she doesn't want to seem any different. And was really persuaded that she talked as much as ever. But her mind was so busily engaged that she did not always know when she was silent. Yeah, because whether you're talking externally or internally, you're still talking. So you're like, my brain's going. I'm talking a mile a minute. Meanwhile, you're just standing there like this. But then your brain is like going 15,000 million miles away, miles per hour. So that's Jane right now. She's nervous. The feelings are coming back. She's got butterflies in her stomach. She's probably red. And she thinks that she's talking a lot, but a lot is going on up here. Cute. Now, when the gentleman rose to go away, Mrs. Bennet was mindful of her intended civility. Girl, you already torched the whole house down. Okay, there's no point of rebuilding. There's all just soot and dust and just fragments of what it was about 2 hours ago, 1 hour ago, or however long. Could have been 15 minutes that they were here. So there's no need, okay? But she was mindful of the intended civility. And they were invited and engaged to dine at Longbourn in a few days' time. No. Elizabeth needs to go out of the house. She's going to be like, oh, they're coming over? Okay, I got to go to Meryton that day. Yeah. Oh, no. Now, there's a few days' time. In the few days before that, we need Lizzie and Darcy together. Okay? Somehow, without the mother. I'm not giving up this. But we'll see. Here we go. So who says this? Mrs. Bennet. You are quite a visit in my debt, Mr. Bingley, she added, for when you went to town last winter, you promised to take a family dinner with us as soon as you returned. The woman couldn't pinpoint who Darcy was from the get when she was looking out. She needed Kitty's help. But she remembered that, you promised a family dinner last 6 months ago. Girl, okay. Okay. She's been hanging on to every last word this guy said. So when you went to town last winter, you promised to take a family dinner with us as soon as you returned. I have not forgot. You see? And I assure you, I was very much disappointed that you did not come back and keep your engagement. Mm, okay. Is this the intended civilities? Okay, because even me knows this is just this is not good. This is not a good look for you or your fam. But yeah, I mean, remember that one time you said 15 years ago we were gonna go out? Remember you said you wanted to go out, but we never did. So what happened? You gonna take me up on that offer? Okay. But yeah. So she's gonna come out and say, remember the dinner you were supposed to have? Yeah? Remember you were supposed to come over and have the dinner? But he never did. Now Bingley looked a little silly at this reflection. Yeah, because you're calling him out on stuff that happened a year ago. just, just stop. And said something of his concern at having been prevented by business. That's what it was. He was prevented by business, and then this whole thing came. They then went away. Now it's interesting because he looked silly, said something at being prevented by business, but we don't know if he said yes or no. So he might have just tried to sideline it because he still has what Darcy said about Jane in his mind, maybe. But that's it. That's how they left. This was horrible. This was horrible, guys. Longbourn is burnt to the ground, guys. Okay? So, yeah. And especially, where's the father here? He's in his library, okay? And Mary's not here either because she's reading in her room. So she knows. She's like, I don't want to be embarrassed by my mother. I'm just going to be in my room. Okay, thank you. Now, Mrs. Bennet had been strongly inclined to ask them to stay and dine there that day. Okay. We cannot read the room. We cannot read the room. Just, okay. But, okay. She thought they were having a grand old time. Let's stay for dinner. Okay. But though she always kept a very good table, which I will agree with that. I will probably agree with that she will spend whatever she needs to spend to make sure that she gets that fish and what other, meats, cold meats, lamb, duck, the ragu, whatever it is. She will make sure that it's on the table. So, though she always kept a very good table, she did not think anything less than 2 courses could be good enough for a man on whom she had such anxious designs, or satisfy the appetite and pride of one who had 10,000 a year. Yeah, because you got 2 gentlemen coming to the house, right? So, no matter what she thinks, she's going to try to get them married off here. But, girl, you're tone deaf. The irony is that you completely took these men the other way. Well, as for what Elizabeth thinks and for what we know at this very moment. But, I don't know. We have no idea how Darcy is. We don't know anything. We didn't get into his thoughts in this chapter. He was just there. Bingley was more good-hearted, but we still don't really know. The only thing we really know is that towards the end there, they were talking, Jane and Bingley. So I would hope that they would be on their way to getting back together. Elizabeth is just mortified, secondhand embarrassment. The house is just burned down to the ground, but somehow the library is still standing because Mr. Bennet is in there. So, yeah. But just as this last sentence, she did not think anything less than 2 courses would be good enough for a man on whom she had anxious designs, which is Bingley, or satisfy the pride and appetite of one who had 10,000 a year, who is Darcy. So at the end of the day, she's still trying to impress the 2 of them. So, is she doing that though? No, But guys, where do we go from here? This chapter has so high hopes, and now I am a little dull. But where do we go from here? I don't even know. Okay, guys, so Bingley is back and Darcy is back. And somehow, Mrs. Bennet completely managed to make this reunion approximately 500,000 times more worse than it could have been. Now, Elizabeth spent the whole entire time just trying to figure out where Darcy's at, because he voluntarily came to Longbourn. So, why did he come? Because this Darcy is definitely not the Pemberley Darcy. He was quiet, he was serious, and guys, I mean, he was staring at the floor. And Elizabeth is just sitting there pretending that her needlework is of the utmost importance because apparently she forgot completely how to talk to this man. But Bingley?
My dude, I see you.
Now, he walks in embarrassed and he barely talks to Jane. But then, every 5 minutes or so, he gives her more attention. Sir, we know what's happening over here. Come on. And Jane can completely tell me all she wants how unaffected she is. But Austen told us clearly that her emotions are just all over the place. Guys, we gotta get these four together. We gotta get Bingley and Jane and Lizzie and Darcy back together. Let's do this. Jane, please. All right, current standings. Elizabeth wants Darcy to talk to her, but she can't talk to him, which apparently is a perfect system. Darcy comes all the way back to Longbourn and just stares at the ground. Dude, let's use our words. Jane is totally over Bingley, guys. Yeah. Bingley is keeping the hope alive, guys. Mrs. Bennet is simultaneously helping but absolutely destroying Jane's chances of winning Bingley back. And me? Wondering why Darcy even came in the first place. All right, so you know the drill by now. Let's hydrate up, water in your drink of choice, whatever it is, and you are ready. I shall see you for chapter 54. Let's do this, guys. Kiki?